Good morning, gang. Happy Good Friday to everybody. So here it is, the end of the week again. Another bird hitting the window. What do you know? So, all right. Well, first, before I get into today's topic, I wanted to say yesterday, because it was kind of interesting reading the comments. Yesterday's video was an April Fool's joke, guys. Okay. Reading all the comments, it looks like a whole bunch of you guys took me seriously. Okay. And honestly, if anybody thinks you can find water with an old tree limb that you take the bark off of and didn't think and thought that was real, no. Now, I understand that there are ways to witch for water with the divining rod and everything like this. This was just a joke, guys, for April Fool's Day. I thought everybody could use a laugh. Some people got it. Some people thought I was serious. So please don't think I was serious. This is not a skill I was telling you to do. I tried to keep a straight face through the whole thing to make you think I was serious. But if you watched all the way to the end, you'll see I said Happy April Fool's Day. So all right, so that was kind of that. So what I want to talk to you today is kind of the direction we're heading, all right, and what the title was, okay, how empires fall. And y'all probably, maybe you do, maybe you don't, your typical empire lasts about 200 years, okay? Well, you figure where we are in the United States, about 250, so we're doing pretty good for extending the average time, but hopefully we're not seeing the demise of the American, yes, I understand Canada and Mexico were North America, and then you've got all of South America. I'm just saying United States, the American empire, okay? And I want to show you some of the parallels, typical history lesson here, some of the parallels of what is going on in our world as to what's gone on historically. Now, there are traditionally four ways that an empire falls, okay? And they're due to economic issues, social and cultural issues, environmental issues, and political issues, all right? And I'm going to kind of relate a little bit here. So if you look at the first one, okay, economic issues. Now, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me when I say that the United States economy is hanging on by its fingernails, okay? We're in peril. And yeah, you can have everybody go, oh, look, the stock market just hit a new high. The S&P broke 4,000. The stock market is not a indicator of how well the U.S. economy is doing, all right? When our debt is now 110% of our gross domestic product, meaning, guys, if we took every dollar that the United States, that everybody, every company, every person in the United States made in a year, that wouldn't be enough to pay off the money that the government owes, okay? So our gross domestic product is more than think about your household, okay? If all your bills are more than everything that you make, you're not doing well, all right? Same with our company, or country. So, I'll give you an example of a I keep saying company, of a country that fell apart due to economic issues. And again, look at the Soviet Union, the entire Eastern Bloc, okay? They could not stay afloat due to the economy. And you look at the value of the Russian ruble, the Czech crown. Pick any of the currencies in Eastern Europe back during the Cold War. They weren't worth the paper that they were printed on. Nobody in the rest of the world wanted it. It had value, some value at least in the country that it was originated from, but, nobody else wanted the currency. So, again, back during this time, the U.S. dollar was the choice currency around the world. Then you had the euro come in. The euro kind of took some of that prestige away from the dollar, but the dollar still is, to this day, the choice currency around the world. Okay, but with what we're seeing with massive amounts of debt, inflation rearing its ugly head, 0% interest, the government on the verge of bankruptcy, those are things that will cause a country, an empire to fall, okay? So then the second one you get is societal and cultural issues, okay, that'll cause an empire to fall. Now, if you want to look at what we've got going on now, biblically, you could say that the three cultural issues, societal issues that will cause an empire to fail are basically debauchery, okay? Gambling, sex, and drugs. Well, for the longest time, gambling's been legal in Las Vegas, okay? Then 30, 40 years ago, whatever it was, then Atlantic City wound up with gambling. Okay, no big deal. Then slowly but surely you had the reservations, Native American casinos, those coming up. Then more and more cities, states, whatever, started doing lotteries, and you get the Mega Millions and Powerball and all this sort of stuff. So you had more gambling like that. Now you can pretty much go anywhere in the country and bet on something. All right. So, gambling is an addiction, a sin, if you will. So then you get into the drug side of things. Now, for the majority of my life, we had the war on drugs. I mean, if it was not prescribed, okay, basically it was illegal. And in the last, 5 or 6 years, I guess, marijuana has really, well, maybe 10 years, I guess, from, Washington or Colorado was the first one. Marijuana became legal, and slowly but surely you get a little bit more and more states that are legalizing marijuana. Now you get states like Oregon who are legalizing hard drugs, okay? Then you're seeing all the stories with what's going on in the world right now when cities are giving addicts needles and everything to inject themselves with hard drugs. I mean, so they're actively, your tax dollars are actively supporting their drug habits, okay? So you get into that part. And so now that's kind of becoming more mainstream. Then you get into the sex part, okay? Prostitution. And, you can say whatever you want, the oldest profession, whatever it would be, okay? But it's been illegal. I mean, with the exception of one county somewhere in Nevada, no, not Las Vegas, okay? Was it the Chicken Ranch or whatever, But other than that, prostitution's been illegal in the United States. Until now. Because now you get cities like happened here this week, where Baltimore has now come out. Baltimore, okay, large city, okay, outskirts of the nation's capital here, saying they are going to no longer prosecute people for drug offenses, for prostitution, for anything. So if you don't think that this is going to start the ball rolling with other cities and states doing the same thing, now you've got all the cardinal sins, if you will, all the addictions, all the false gods that are going to be worshipped, for lack of a better term. Again, fall of society, okay? And this mirrors the decline of the Roman Empire, all right? The Roman Empire, the people, it was ravaged by moral decay, people that just didn't care. I mean, go do any research you want on the Roman Empire and why it fell. A lot of it has to do with just complete societal collapse, all right? So now you go into the third one, environmental issues, all right? And no, I'm not talking Green New Deal or anything here, or climate change, that bullshit, anything of the sort, okay? But I'm talking about environmental issues, and we've seen this, okay? Again, I talk about it many times. You've seen the derechos, the wildfires, the hurricanes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The cold snap in Texas that, killed 40% of the wheat crop, okay? And everybody says, oh, that's not a big deal, everything. All right, let's look at this one. The Ming Dynasty in China, okay? There aren't a whole lot of Chinese dynasties that most Americans have heard of, but the Ming Dynasty is one that you probably have, okay? And that was from the late 1300s to the mid 1600s, okay? So not terribly long ago. I mean, you're talking 500 to 800 years ago, okay? So in the great scheme of the world, that's not terribly long ago. What caused the demise of the Ming Dynasty? Famine. What caused the famine? Environmental issues. They went through a huge drought. There wasn't enough food for the people, okay? What are we seeing today in the United States? Is it 1 out of 6 people right now is going to bed hungry? All right. There's not enough food. Now, granted, some of that is because of complete mismanagement, but there's not enough food. And that was the next reason for a dynasty to collapse. So you can see we are on the same road as the Ming Dynasty there. Then the fourth one, like I said, is political issues, okay? And political issues is when you get, okay, two warring, if you will, factions that just do not agree, okay? And if you want to take a look at this for history, I mean, think about it. We've got two warring factions, the Democrats and the Republicans. I mean, they can't agree on what color the sun is, okay? But you look through history, and there's constant fall of empires. Look at the Achaemenid Persia back, before Christ. That fell apart because of, when Alexander of Macedon had invaded the Persian Empire and taken over, okay, rather than fortify the Persian Empire, he just basically kept it and said, basically, I'm the new emperor. And when he died and there was no successor to do it, well, all the generals kind of part and parceled off different parts of the empire and said, I'm in charge of this one, I'm in charge of this one, I'm in charge of, and they wound up fighting each other and everything till they wound up destroying themselves, okay? Same thing going on in the United States now. Look at the Guptas in India. Same thing. They were fighting the White Huns forever on invading, and they couldn't hold it together. And politically, the empire eventually couldn't do anything outside its small confine, and eventually it just imploded on itself. So you look at all of these different ways that empires fell, and we're going through all of them at the same time, okay? Environmental, political, societal, and economic. I mean, all four of them are happening to us. I mean, this is the great implosion, guys. This could possibly be what takes down the United States. And with, 46, who, can't figure out which shoe goes on which foot, running the show right now, don't expect it to get any better. So we as preppers are eventually going to wind up, on an island, if you will, all ourselves, because we're going to have, if the country balkanizes, we have these problems. If the country just completely implodes, we're going to have these same problems. Okay, so you're going to want your little community that you have right now, that is going to be your new empire. All right, and maybe it's 30 square miles, maybe it's 1. Okay, this is going to be your whole world, and you need to make sure that you can do anything and everything possible to not only survive, but live in that small little area. Because going outside those borders, you may be going into a war zone, okay? Like I said, you go back to Persia, they split everything up and it was a war zone. They're now fighting for land. That could possibly happen. And that's what I want you guys to be aware of. That's what's at risk right now. Right now, everybody for the most part, okay, you get along with your neighbors. That could all go by the wayside very quick. Because if this situation that we got going on and what it looks like is going to happen this summer with the Derek Chauvin trial, with the printing presses running at full speed in Washington, whatever would be, the grand solar minimum, I mean, you add them all up, and we're in some dangerous times here, guys. So keep prepping, keep stocking stuff, keep storing stuff, keep growing stuff, keep making your plans, because you may very well soon be an island unto yourself, okay? And we all need to be prepared up here for that thought. So, yeah, I know, a little hard one to deal with on a Friday, but it's Friday. So, all right, guys, have a nice Easter weekend. We'll talk to you in the morning. Pinball out.